I'm standing in my apartment at 2 in the morning, staring at my own front door like it belongs to a stranger. My hands are shaking, not from cold, from the realization that everything I thought I knew about the last 3 weeks is a complete lie. The girl I let sleep on my couch, the homeless kid I felt so damn good about helping, is hiding something that shouldn't be possible. Something that makes no sense. And somehow, I'm the one who's going to pay for it. Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. Because if I don't explain the before, you won't understand why the after broke me so completely. 3 weeks ago, my life was exactly what I'd worked for. I'm Michael, 42, divorced twice, but I learned from my mistakes. I've got a decent job in IT management at a mid-size firm in suburban Denver. Not rich, but stable. $48,000 a year, solid 401k, decent health insurance. My apartment is a 2-bedroom in a nice complex on the northeast side. Nothing fancy, but clean, organized, mine. I'd spent the last 4 years rebuilding after my second marriage imploded. Sarah left me for someone from her CrossFit gym. Cliché, right? But it hurt like hell, and I swore I'd never let someone blindside me again. I had routines. Gym on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Coffee at the same place every morning. Sunday dinners with my sister Jennifer and her family in Boulder. My therapist, Dr. Chen, every other Thursday at 4 p.m. I'd even joined a hiking club. Life was manageable, predictable, safe. That Thursday evening, the one where everything started, I was leaving the office around 6. I work in a building near downtown, glass and steel, the kind of place that makes you feel like you're doing something important, even when you're just managing server infrastructure. The weather was turning cold. This was late October, that perfect Colorado autumn where the aspens are gold and the nights drop into the 40s. I was thinking about grabbing Thai food, maybe watching something mindless on Netflix. I took the light rail home. At the Spear station, I saw her. She was sitting on the bench outside, the kind of bench that's bolted down so homeless people can't sleep on it. She couldn't have been more than 18, 19, dark hair, matted, cut short and uneven, like she'd done it herself with a knife. Wearing a thin jacket that had maybe been blue once, now a grayish color that spoke of months outdoors. She had a backpack next to her, one of those school-style packs, and she was doing something with her hands, folding and refolding a piece of paper. I almost walked past her. I'm not cold-hearted, but I'm practical. Denver's full of panhandlers. You can't help everyone, and if you try, you'll drain yourself dry. That's what I told myself anyway, but something made me stop. Maybe it was the way she was concentrating on that paper, like it was the most important thing in the world. Or maybe it was just a Tuesday, a moment where I felt lonely enough to see myself in someone else's isolation. "Hey," I said, "you okay?" She looked up. Her eyes were this pale blue, almost gray, and they had that clarity that catches you off guard in homeless people. Not the glazed look of addiction, but something sharp. Something that made you wonder how she ended up here. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice was hoarse, like she didn't use it much. "Just waiting." For what? For something to change. I should have left it there. That's what I tell myself now. I should have nodded and gone home and forgotten about her. But I didn't. "Where are you staying tonight?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. She looked at the paper in her hands, then at me, then back at the paper. "I don't know yet," she admitted. It was probably 40 degrees. October in Denver, night falling, and this kid didn't have a plan for where to sleep. I could hear Dr. Chen's voice in my head. "Michael, your need to rescue people is a trauma response. You're reenacting your relationship with your mother." Whatever. Maybe I was. But I also knew what hypothermia felt like, and I knew that sleeping outside in Colorado in October could lead to it. "I'm Michael," I said. "I live a couple of blocks from here. I've got a couch, one night, no strings, no questions, but you need to get somewhere warm." She looked at me for a long moment, evaluating. Then she stood up, folding that piece of paper carefully and tucking it into her jacket pocket. "I'm Ashley," she said. "And yeah, I could use that." That's how it started. That single moment of weakness, or kindness, depending on how you look at it now, changed everything. Ashley followed me back to my apartment. She used the shower. I gave her clean clothes from a donation bag I'd been meaning to drop off at Goodwill. She ate some pasta I made and went to sleep on the couch without saying much. I told myself it was one night. One night turned into 3 days. Then a week. Then 2 weeks. I told myself it was temporary. Ashley was looking for a job, I said. She needed stability, I said. Dr. Chen would have had a field day with my rationalization, but I wasn't calling her anymore. I was too busy. The thing about letting someone into your space is that they don't just occupy it, they rewire it. Ashley moved through my apartment like she was learning its language. She figured out that I liked my coffee at exactly 6:15 a.m. She started making it. She learned that I kept my gym clothes in the bottom drawer, that I watched the news at 7, that I had a particular way I liked the kitchen organized. She fit herself into the gaps of my routine like she'd been designed for it. "You're a good person, Michael," she said one morning. Maybe day 9 or 10. We were eating breakfast. She was sitting at my kitchen table, which she'd never done the first few days. She'd always eaten on the couch, separate, like she was still a guest. Now she was here. "Most people wouldn't do this. Most people aren't as lonely as I am," I said, and I meant it. That was the truth I wasn't saying out loud. I needed her here as much as she needed a roof. She was filling something I'd been missing since Sarah left. "I'm going to find a job this week," Ashley said, pushing eggs around her plate. "Real job. I've got some experience. I can work fast food, retail, whatever. I just need a reference. Just need someone to say I'm not crazy." "You're not crazy," I said. "You don't know that." "I know enough." She looked at me then, and there was something in her expression that I couldn't read. Gratitude, maybe? Or pity. "You're going to regret this," she said quietly. "Why would I regret helping someone?" "Because people like me, we come with baggage. We come with complications. And you seem like you've had enough of those." I should have asked what she meant. I should have pushed. Instead, I reached across the table and squeezed her hand, and she let me, and that felt like progress. By day 12, I'd brought her to my office. Not inside. HR would have had questions. But I introduced her to my boss, Linda, who ran our whole IT department. Told her Ashley was my niece, that she'd fallen on hard times, that I was helping her get back on her feet. "That's beautiful," Linda said, and I could see the calculation happen behind her eyes. I was the guy who helped family. I was dependable. I was the kind of man who showed up for people. "She's got retail experience," I lied. "Looking for something stable." Linda knew someone, a manager at a Target in Aurora, about 20 minutes from my apartment. She made a call right there, while Ashley waited in the lobby, drinking terrible coffee from our break room. By day 14, Ashley had an interview. By day 16, she had a job starting the following Monday. "See," I said, "you're going to be fine, better than fine." "Because of you," she said. "Because you showed up," I corrected. "Because you wanted something different." But inside, I was already feeling the shift, the relief that she'd be out of my apartment during the day, the guilt about that relief, the knowledge that once she had income, she wouldn't need me anymore, and I'd have to go back to my quiet, ordered life with just the gym and my therapist and my sister's pity. I didn't want her to leave. That's when things started getting strange. It was a Friday night, 3 weeks in. I came home from work, late, around 8, because we'd had a server issue, and found Ashley in my bedroom. Not on the couch. My bedroom. "Hey," she said, like it was normal. She was sitting on my bed, my actual bed, with my laptop open. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Working on my resume," she said. Too quickly. "For the Target job. I wanted to get it perfect." But my laptop was closed. I could see it from where I stood. It was shut, dark, sitting exactly where I'd left it on my dresser. "Ashley?" "I was in here before," she said, standing up, and now there was something different in her voice, something sharp. "I was looking for a charger. My phone's dead. I thought maybe you had an extra." "There's a charger in the living room." "I didn't know that." We stared at each other. In the 3 weeks I'd known her, I'd never seen her like this. Her jaw was clenched. Her hands were fists. She looked like someone preparing for a fight. "Ashley, what's going on?" "Nothing," she said. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come in here without asking. I'll go. But she didn't leave immediately. She walked past me slowly, and as she did, I caught a different scent on her. Not her usual soap smell, but something else. Something chemical, something wrong. That night, I lay in bed listening to her move around on the couch. I could hear the television, low volume. I could hear her breathing, and I realized I didn't actually know this person at all. I'd let a stranger into my home, into my life, and I knew nothing about her. I got up around midnight and checked my laptop. No signs it had been touched. I checked my bedroom. Nothing missing, nothing obviously disturbed. But something felt violated anyway. The space didn't feel like mine anymore. By Monday, Ashley had her first shift at Target. She left at 7 in the morning, came back at 5, exhausted and quiet. She made dinner. She did the dishes. She was the perfect house guest. But I started paying attention. I noticed that she left my apartment twice. Once on Tuesday, once on Wednesday, for 4 or 5 hours at a time. And when I asked where she went, she said job hunting, or walk, or appointment. Nothing specific. Nothing I could verify. I noticed that she made a phone call on Thursday night, standing in the bathroom with the shower running, and I heard her say, "No, he doesn't know anything. He's clueless." Yeah, I know. I'll be ready. Ready for what? I knocked on the bathroom door, and she opened it immediately, phone nowhere to be seen. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Who are you talking to?" "My mom," she said. "She worries. You haven't mentioned your mom. I don't like talking about her." And that should have been the moment I asked her to leave. That should have been the moment I called Jennifer and admitted that my little rescue project had gone sideways. Instead, I did what I always did. I accepted the lie and moved on. By day 20, I was starting to feel the weight of it. The deception, whether it was real or just in my head. The sense that I was living with someone who was waiting for something, and when it came, my life would change in a way I couldn't control. Then, on a Friday evening, I came home early from work. A migraine, an early release, and found Ashley sitting at my kitchen table with my mail spread in front of her, not just looking at it. She had a pen. She was copying down numbers. She looked up when I came in, and for the first time, I saw something like fear cross her face. "Don't," I said. "Michael." "Whatever this is," I said, "don't. Don't lie to me. Don't tell me another story. Just tell me the truth." And Ashley did something I didn't expect. She started to cry. Real tears, not performative. She put her head down on my mail, and she sobbed, and I stood there in my kitchen, my head pounding, and I understood that everything was about to fall apart. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, but I can't tell you. Not yet. It's not safe. For you or for me." Safe from what? She looked up at me with those pale blue eyes, and in them was something I'd never seen before. Desperation. Real, animal. This is life or death desperation. "From my father," she said. The words hung there between us like something physical. From my father, not mom. Father. The same father she'd never mentioned. The same father she'd been hiding from. "He's looking for you," I said. It wasn't a question. Ashley nodded slowly. "And you're... what? Setting up accounts? Getting documents? Running?" "I'm preparing," she said quietly. "For when he finds me. Because he will find me, Michael. He always does. And when he does, I need to be someone else." I sat down at my kitchen table, my migraine forgotten. Ashley's father. The thing she'd been running from. The reason she was copying my information, creating false identities, disappearing for hours at a time. "Tell me everything," I said quietly. Ashley wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. For a moment, I thought she wouldn't. Then she started talking. His name was Richard Hartley. He'd been a federal prosecutor in Boston for 23 years before he retired 5 years ago. By all public measures, he was exemplary, successful, respected, with a wife named Karen and 2 daughters, Ashley and a younger sister named Emma. But at home, he was something else. "He's a collector," Ashley said, her voice hollow. "Not of things, of control, of secrets. He built his entire career on making people confess, on finding the thing they were hiding and using it against them. And he did the same thing at home. She told me about the surveillance. Richard had cameras in the house, not security cameras, but hidden ones. In the bathrooms, in the girls' bedrooms. He monitored their phones, their computers, their bank accounts. He had passwords to everything, because he was starting to do it to Emma. She's 14. And I realized that he wasn't going to stop until he controlled everything and everyone around him. So I left. I took some cash he kept in a safe, about $800, and I walked out. And he's been looking for you? He's been looking for me for 3 years, Ashley said. He's hired private investigators. He's put up missing person posters, framing it like I'm a troubled runaway, like I'm the problem. He's told people I'm mentally ill, that I'm on drugs, that I'm dangerous. He's poisoned every narrative about me before I even had a chance to tell my own story. My stomach churned. I thought about her on that bench, waiting for something to change. 3 years of running, 3 years of sleeping on the street, working jobs under fake names, never staying anywhere long enough to be found. Why come here? I asked. To Denver? Because he's in Boston and Boston's in the other direction. And because I thought maybe, if I could build a life, a real life, with documentation, with a job, with someone who could vouch for me, then maybe I could finally be someone he couldn't touch. Someone with a story he couldn't rewrite. And that's when I understood what she'd been doing with my laptop, what she'd been copying from my mail. She wasn't stealing from me, she was creating herself. The documents, I said. You were going to use my information to build a credit history, Ashley finished. To open accounts in my name. Real accounts, with real history. A paper trail that proves I exist as someone other than his daughter. I know it's illegal. I know I shouldn't have done it without asking. But I was so close, Michael. I had the job. I had you. I had a place to stay. And if I could just get enough documentation together, get enough months of employment history and credit, I could disappear legally. I could become someone new, not a ghost, a real person. I leaned back in my chair. My head was pounding again. Ashley, you can't just create a new identity. That's fraud. That's identity theft. I know, she said quietly. And I'm sorry. I'll leave. I'll take everything I was doing and I'll leave tonight. You've been kind, and I ruined it. And I understand that. She started to stand, but I put my hand up. Wait a minute. I thought about my second wife. How she'd left me with nothing but a legal bill and a crushed sense of self. I thought about my therapist, Dr. Chen, and all the things she'd tried to teach me about setting boundaries and not rescuing people who didn't want to be rescued. But I also thought about the boy in New Hampshire, about Emma, 14 years old, trapped in a house with a man who was systematically destroying her ability to trust anyone, about Ashley at 18, with $800 and nothing else, sleeping on benches and in shelters, because her father had decided she was his enemy. Okay, I said. Here's what we're going to do. I called my sister Jennifer that night. She's a family law attorney in Boulder, and if anyone knew how to navigate this legally, it was her. I didn't tell her the full story, not yet. I just said I had a friend who needed help with documentation and was concerned about privacy issues. That's literally my job, Jennifer said. Bring them by my office Monday. Monday morning, Ashley and I sat across from Jennifer in a conference room on Pearl Street. Jennifer had coffee, a yellow legal pad, and the expression of someone who'd heard worse things than a 19-year-old girl trying to escape an abusive father. Okay, Jennifer said, pen poised. Tell me what we're actually dealing with. Ashley told her everything. The surveillance, the manipulation, the isolation tactics. Jennifer took notes, her expression growing darker with each detail. This is textbook psychological abuse, Jennifer said finally. Combined with invasion of privacy, the surveillance in bathrooms and bedrooms. That's criminal. Federal crime, possibly. Has he threatened you? Has he been physically violent? Not to me, Ashley said. Not directly. But you're afraid of him. I'm terrified of him. Jennifer set down her pen. Okay, here's the reality. You're 19. You're an adult. You can live wherever you want, work wherever you want, and legally change your name through the court system. It's a process, but it's legitimate. We file the petition. publish a notice, and in 30 to 60 days, you have a new legal name. No fraud, no identity theft, no federal crimes. That's simple? Ashley asked. That's simple. What's not simple is that if your father is as connected as you're saying, former federal prosecutor, all that, he might contest it. He might show up in court and argue that you're mentally unstable or that you're running from legitimate parental concerns. And he might have resources to make that argument convincing. What would I need? I asked, surprising myself. Jennifer looked at me. You'd need character witnesses, people willing to testify that she's stable, employed, not a threat to herself or others. You'd need employment history, which she has with Target. You'd need proof of residence. I can do that, I said. Ashley reached over and squeezed my hand. Her palm was sweating. The other thing you should know, Jennifer said carefully, is that once you legally change your name, you're not invisible. Your father could still find you if he has the resources. A name change is not witness protection. It's just a legal reset. But it makes it harder, Ashley said. It makes it harder, and it gives you the right to deny your old identity. If he shows up claiming you're his daughter, you can legally say you're not. You can refuse to engage with him. That would be enough, Ashley said. Jennifer pulled out her calendar. I can file the petition this week. We'll need to get some paperwork together. Proof of residence, employment verification, that kind of thing. Michael, you'd need to provide a letter saying she lives with you. Done, I said. And I'll need to advise you, Jennifer said, looking directly at me, that you might be opening yourself up to legal complications. If her father shows up claiming she's stolen things, or she's a runaway, or anything like that, you could be implicated. You should think carefully about how involved you want to be. I thought about it for approximately 30 seconds. I'm already involved, I said. Tell me what you need. The next 2 weeks were a blur of paperwork. Jennifer filed the name change petition, listing Ashley's desired new name as Morgan Webb. We gathered employment verification from Target, a letter from Linda at my company saying I'd known her for weeks and found her to be stable and reliable, and documents proving she'd been living at my address. Everything was legitimate. Everything was legal. Everything was above board. And then, on a Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Mr. Michael Garrett? A man's voice, clipped and authoritative, the kind of voice that was used to being obeyed. Yes? This is Richard Hartley. I believe you're harboring my daughter. My mouth went dry. I don't know what you're talking about. Ashley Hartley, 19 years old, missing for 3 years. And according to a court filing I just received, she's living at your address in Denver and attempting to legally change her identity. So I'm going to ask you once, and I want a direct answer. Where is my daughter? She's not your daughter anymore, I said quietly. Not legally, not in any way that matters. She's an adult. She left your home. She's safe, and she's going to stay safe. There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. It was colder, sharper. You have no idea what you're involved in, Mr. Garrett. That girl is unstable. She's been institutionalized. She's a liar and a thief, and she's manipulated you into believing her delusions. I'm coming to Colorado to collect her, and I'm going to press charges against you for harboring a runaway and aiding in identity fraud. Come ahead, I said, but you should know that your daughter has retained an attorney, that she's filed a name change petition, and that she's prepared to testify about the surveillance equipment you installed in your home. So when you get here, you might want to bring a lawyer of your own. He hung up. Richard Hartley arrived in Denver 4 days later, on a Tuesday afternoon. He came alone, which surprised me. I'd expected a lawyer, or a private investigator, or some kind of entourage, but he walked into the Denver County Courthouse by himself, and he sat in the back of the gallery while Judge Patricia Mercado presided over Ashley's name change hearing. Ashley, soon to be Morgan, sat at the table next to Jennifer, wearing a navy dress that Jennifer had helped her pick out. She looked terrified, but she looked present. She looked like someone choosing her own life. Richard Hartley looked exactly like his photos. Silver-haired, expensive suit, the kind of man whose face had been in newspapers. He looked like someone who'd never been told no, until Judge Mercado asked if there were any objections to the name change. Richard stood up. Your Honor, I'm Richard Hartley. I'm Ashley's father. I have serious concerns about this petition. My daughter has a history of mental illness, of making false accusations, of running from legitimate parental authority. I believe this name change is part of a larger delusion, and I'm requesting that the court require a psychological evaluation before proceeding. Judge Mercado looked at Richard over her glasses. You're not listed as a party to this petition. Are you here to testify? I'm her father. I have standing. You do not, Judge Mercado said flatly. Your daughter is an adult. She has the right to change her name. If you wish to contest this, you'll need to file a formal motion. Now, is there anything else? Richard's face was turning red. Your Honor, I'm trying to protect my daughter from being exploited by someone who... Who what? Jennifer stood up. Your Honor, if Mr. Hartley wishes to make allegations, he can do so in a legal filing. For now, this court is ready to grant the petition. Ashley Hartley, you wish to legally change your name to Morgan Webb, correct? Ashley stood. Her voice was steady. I do. Done, Judge Mercado said, signing the order. Congratulations, Ms. Webb. I watched Richard's face as the gavel came down. I watched him realize that he'd lost, that his daughter, his property, as he'd always treated her, had legally ceased to exist, that Morgan Webb was someone he no longer had authority over. He stood up and walked out of the courtroom without another word. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 days later, police showed up at my apartment, not to arrest me, but to ask questions. Richard had filed a report claiming that Ashley had stolen $800 from him 3 years ago and that I was knowingly harboring a fugitive. He'd also filed a complaint with the Colorado Attorney General's office, claiming that Jennifer had facilitated identity fraud. It was all bullshit, but it was the kind of bullshit that required lawyers to disprove. Jennifer handled it. She filed a response, attached copies of the surveillance equipment Ashley had documented in Richard's home, included affidavits from 2 of Ashley's former friends who testified about his harassment and intimidation tactics, and she included a letter from Emma. Emma was 17 when she finally reached out to Ashley, through a burner phone she'd hidden in her school locker. Richard had never found it. She'd been reading about the court case online, through a proxy server, and she wanted her sister to know the truth. She wanted Morgan to know that she'd gotten out too, that she'd told her mother everything, and that their mother had finally found the courage to divorce Richard. That Emma had testified to a family law judge about the surveillance and the control, and that Richard was now facing a custody evaluation and possibly criminal charges for the hidden cameras. He'd finally been caught. By his own daughter. By the system he'd thought he could manipulate. The Colorado Attorney General's office dropped their investigation into Jennifer. The police closed their case against me. And Richard Hartley, former federal prosecutor, had to hire a criminal defense attorney. Morgan stayed with me for another 6 months while she saved money and got her feet under her. She got her high school diploma through an online program. She started taking community college classes. She worked her shifts at Target, and she made friends. Real friends, who weren't scared of her father, because her father no longer had the power to hurt anyone. When she finally moved into her own apartment in Aurora, we both cried a little. Not sad tears. The kind you cry when you've survived something and made it to the other side. It's been 2 years now. Morgan still texts me every week. She's in her 2nd year at the University of Colorado, studying criminal psychology. She wants to work with abuse survivors. She wants to help people escape what she escaped. And me? I'm still in my apartment in Denver, still working in IT management, still going to therapy, though now it's less about rescuing people and more about understanding why I needed to be rescued myself. But I'm different. I learned that sometimes the kindness you give doesn't come back as gratitude. Sometimes it comes back as the weight of another person's trauma. Sometimes it comes back as legal fees and police questions and the terrifying realization that you've let someone into your life who needed saving more than you understood. But I also learned that some people are worth that weight, that some stories aren't about heroes rescuing victims. They're about victims rescuing themselves and finding someone willing to stand beside them while they do it. Morgan called me last week. She wanted me to know that her mother had finally divorced Richard, that Emma was thriving, that the court had ordered Richard into a psychological evaluation and that he was no longer allowed unsupervised contact with his daughters. "You changed my life," Morgan said. "You changed your own life," I told her. "I just didn't kick you out." "That was enough," she said. And I realized finally that maybe it was.